Yeah, I actually haven't even looked at it. You're not waiting for next.
This okay?
I heard.
All right, guys, we're gonna get started. We have a full agenda. We're gonna call in as much time as we can. So grab a seat real quick. There's some up front. There's a few up front if you guys want to come up or to grab one. One over there too. One over there next to Greg. I don't blame you if you don't go over there. That was Cullen's seat, wasn't it? I told him to go right there. All right, welcome. Got a good full meeting today, so we'll go over our usual stuff. We're gonna give the floor. Andrew's here today. He's gonna share some mortgage updates. Things are going crazy again in mortgages, so I'm sure he's gonna calm us all down. And then Cullen's here. If you guys were here last year for Cullen, he came in October. He was high in demand with bringing him back. So we're gonna give him about 40 minutes today. I wanna make sure that he gets through his entire slides. A lot of questions. Hopefully, we have a couple testimonials for him now because we've had people use them. So I think everyone's going to want to hear from him more than me today. So we're going to get started. Yes, I think we got a new keyboard.
And now it doesn't work.
Oh, see? All right. Pledge allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which to stand, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
How many people actually read the word? So we just take on that.
They don't know.
Mr. Reynolds is holding the poll. If you guys have business cards, throw them in. If you don't, like if you're newer and you don't have business cards yet, just give him your name, he'll write on one. I just want to make sure that you guys all get in it. We have a lot of giveaways today and want to make sure that you get an opportunity. Gratitude. Who has some gratitude to give back to somebody? I'm gonna go through this. I want to get 3 to 5 if possible.
Yes, sir. I'm grateful that Colin's here today to share his knowledge with us.
And why is that, Jeremy?
Because I was here when Colin was here last year. And I decided to go with a property management company that I'm now regretting.
That's what I wanted you to say. Thank you for feeding right into that.
I'll expect.
Yeah, that was good. Who else? Linda?
Logos Academy, I got an email from one of the teachers of all the money that we ended up giving them for their backpacks. One teacher reached out to me and said her classroom was picked to use a lot of that money. 30 some kids, she had in her classroom, got a backpack because of the money that we sent. And she reached out to me to thank me and asked me to thank all of you. And she also said, I want to keep a connection. I'm having coffee with her tomorrow. Friday. Having coffee with her Friday. So pretty cool connection and a great big thank you. She's like, you have no idea. So it's a big thing.
That's for some of the newer ones here. We partnered with Logos Academy over the summer to do a backpack event. We were able to raise, how much was it?
About 5,000.
Yeah, so and all that was donated to the school to help those kids. I think they had about 140 kids, so gave them materials, gave them stuff for school. It was great. We're actually going to be doing a coat event here pretty soon too. We'll talk on that as well. But thank you, Belinda. Who else? Reed.
Yeah, so I would like to thank those of you who were at the event for the homeless I think it was a week and a half ago. We did a total of 217 folks came through. It was very beneficial. The more people that we get from our office, the better it shows for us. So thanks again, guys, for showing up and your time. It's well needed.
We appreciate having you as the president this year. So I know you're anxious to get that done with, get your life back. I mean, we had Tina a couple years ago. We saw how busy she was and still is. And then Brian was one a few years prior to that. So again, thank you for everything you do with RAAC. Any more? We got a lot of people here today. Can I get a couple more?
Grateful for Ryan for always answering the phone.
Head's getting bigger.
I know he's got a lot of shit going on, but he's always there to answer questions, so I think that.
I second that.
I third that.
Holy crap. Man, got a fan club today. Don't end it on me. Can somebody else take the spotlight off?
And I'm grateful for being asked back.
There you go. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, last one. Anybody? Good?
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Aaron. Our belief system, go. Shout
Win
them
or
out.
no deal.
There you go. Take your
Integrity,
first.
do the right thing.
Customers always come first. Commitment in all things.
Communication,
Seek
seek
first
first
to
to understand.
Absolutely,
Bill.
Creativity, ideas before results.
Teamwork, together everyone achieves more.
Trust starts with honesty,
Not the same people.
equity, opportunities for all.
Success results through people.
There we go. Three of you took it.
I think everyone's afraid that they're gonna read it wrong.
I mean, I would be. Mess up a word, I don't think, skip a line, but has any of this, does anyone have an example of how this has shown up in your life or your business in the last 30 days? Anything? At least one thing, Mr. Reynolds.
Well, for PC, you know, the teamwork together, everybody achieves more. I know Brian came on this last Monday to, I'm not gonna end on the front.
Yeah, please don't.
Brian came on this last Monday to
We're
talk to
wrong.
the PC team about listings, about his listing presentation. Mike is coming on next Monday to talk, and then the Monday after that, Tina's coming on. And then the PC team's gonna be doing a listing presentation for me on my house. And so it's, you know, the great thing about this company is the fact that, you know, we're doing it as a team. We're all, you know, helping the PC program.
Are you doing it as a competition? Maybe the winner gets something?
The listing.
Yeah. Great, thanks for sharing. Someone else have their hand raised? Yes, Phil, I think you did. No?
No.
Okay. Phil's leaving for Peru soon, so let's not feel bad for him.
I have one.
Oh, go ahead.
I worked the deal with Maria and Phil. And it was a under renovation project, so it was a little bit different, like it wasn't actually listed, and there was good teamwork. Through everybody to get it done.
Same to
So
you.
did you. I mean,
Yeah.
she's wonderful to work with.
Thank you.
That's great. And then there's a whole Keller Williams process. That's great.
Yeah, I'll kick on that. Like, that was also like, they love that house, by the way. I mean, like, you guys did a really great job with it right now. You know, I was impressed.
That's saying a lot. Thank
Phil is the toughest critic. All right, thanks for sharing. I appreciate that. State of the company, I want to start bringing this in. I brought it in last month. I think it's good to see our true numbers, whether they're good or bad. We obviously know for the last year or so, we've been talking about a market shift going in. So these are our month numbers, our year-to-date numbers. As far as, I guess, from the change of last month, I kind of went over this earlier. And these are all, public. You guys want the trends. Please ask us, we'll get them to you. It's just the kind of the vitals of the company. But closed sales volume, we're still doing really well. Closed units, I think last month we did 179. This month, 2 months ago, we did 179. This past month, we did 170. So we're staying right in that wheelhouse of that 170, just below 200. Love to get over 200. That's when we were making some great money, all of us. Listings taken, that's our future business, is still very steady at 115. Listings sold, that's 109. I like comparing that number to our closed units because again, we want to focus that on our listings being more than our buyers. Because if we take market share, we have more signs out in the yard. So when we're over 50%, that's healthy. Listing sold volume, again, 23 million, almost 24, contracts written, future business, 175, that's staying around where we were. Average sales price stays around that 240 mark. I think we're averaging on the year, across the year, like 269. So we're working smarter, not harder when it comes to getting more money. We just missed $1 million in closed DCI, which I was saying to the ALC this morning. It's funny, we can say that now, like $1 million is what is normal, where a couple years ago, normal was like $700,000. So to say that we paid $1 million out in commissions to our agents is always a really exciting thing. So we've just missed it, but I'm sure we'll get back on it. Any questions on the numbers? No? Keep going. Productivity slides. James, I'll kind of let you speak on Whitney's deal if you want.
Yeah, so Whitney had a listing appointment that we both went to, with a divorced couple, so it's always good to start out your first listing ever with people who won't talk to each other. And she had the settlement delayed 6 times. And she went through it like a champ. You know, she dealt with it. She called, asked questions. I mean, she was involved and she, you know, listed it for 250. They put a low ball offer in, got it up to 240, and she just did an awesome job.
That's awesome. And that was her first listing?
First listing.
First listing. So, I mean, you're either getting one side or the other. You're getting a very easy deal, which I don't think is always the best way to go about it, because that's not how every deal is going to go. Or you get the challenging ones, it'll test you as an agent, test your mentorship. But I think those are the best ones to learn from, because I think we all know in here that you're going to come across some really, really challenging deals, and it's best to know how to handle and create solutions. So good job to Whitney. Actually, Brem, congratulations. I think she's on Zoom. I saw her, my tab's not up. So Ashley, congratulations. Hit the board for the first time. Not only did, but for the first time, but $1.7 million. That's a lot of money. That was a busy month. I saw her Facebook post. I feel like every other day was under contract or new listing. So congratulations to her for her, not only her debut, but some great volume as well. The leaders that topped the board, we got Liz in the room on the team side of things. She took both units volume. We'll break that down and everyone can see it, but Ron Clever got back into that top spot, dethroned our and Miss Kate Bercious. Next month, right? Next month. And then Nate Johnston from the Dillsburg office, he's back in there as well. October birthdays. Who do we got in here? Nada's in Japan, lucky. Says she's out enjoying herself. We have, who else is in? Jen Staub. Jeff Selby couldn't make it today, but his is tomorrow. Please give him a warm happy birthday. Jay, he's also coming up as well. Happy birthday, you guys. Our anniversaries, can you believe Aaron's been here a year already? Becker, that's crazy. He made it. He got over that stat of the first year stat. So congratulations.
He's full time, but
Yeah, I mean, it took him to blow out his knee to go into full time. Greg Jean, also what's it? 4 years? 4 years for us? Five. Yeah. Maria, April, Madison, Jason. Welcome to KW. You guys did scare Dawn away last month, so she joined us. So she's over there. Actually, I think we have everybody in here today. So Dawn, Kristen is here, and we have Catherine right there. She's joining Seth and Jeff's team, and Dylan, who's in PC as well. Let's give them a round of applause. All right, so top producers, we touched on this a little bit, but big numbers from the individual producers this month. Everyone was over $1 million. And it's funny when you go around and you talk to everybody and they're like, oh, I'm going to kill it this month. I'm taking top spot. And then you see what happens and it's a little defeating, but it's pretty awesome to see our individual producers putting those types of numbers up. To be over $1 million just to get top 5 is crazy. So Ron, like I said, took the top spot. Ashley, we already talked about her. Congratulations, Nate. And we got the duo over here, Mike and Greg. They're always in competition with each other. I think Mike gets bragging rights this month, so soak it up. Liz, keep back up there at 7 million. That's a busy month. So congratulations to Liz, Colby, Neil, Dave. We got Seth and Andrew and Catherine all kind of representing the Jeff and Seth team right now. Wes Stripe and his sister made the board again. And Jeremy Tolley got the units for team. So congratulations, round of applause for these guys. Got some events coming up. I gotta keep this moving because I'm running over myself, but a lot of KWRI events. If you want to go to Phoenix in 2 days, you can go down. There's a luxury symposium and you can kind of mastermind, get into the luxury market. I know Belinda's part of that program there. We have Wealth Building Wednesdays. It's every week at Wednesday. We have ALC Cleaning coming up. Our next meeting is the 15th, and then Bold's happening. Actually, if you're interested in Bold, it started today in Harrisburg. That's first step. You can still have an opportunity to go next 2 weeks, actually, up in Harrisburg. But see me if you need to get into that. This is a event we just found out about this event, business planning thing. John Maxwell. How many have read or know about John Maxwell? Most of us. So I've been saying this. I'm not a reader. I hate reading. But John Maxwell, I do really get involved in his books. I think they've helped me kind of develop through my real estate career. So I'm very excited he's coming. I know we're already talking about 2024 events, but this one's going to sell out. They only do 900 tickets and they announced that 400 of us at Business Planning Clinic. I don't know what's left, but I can probably guarantee you a couple hundred went out that day. It is an early bird special. I think it's like 260-ish, 250 or 260 for the early bird up until December 8th, at which point then they go up to 300. There is a VIP event that's happening with them. You can sit down, have dinner. There's 100 tickets for that. It's $400. It's a mastermind. It's a very more intimate session. Where you can ask him questions and kind of take in some great information. But that is January 25th. So if you are interested, I am giving away a ticket today. So you want that?
Yeah, I do. What's it about? Do you know?
I actually they didn't give us much content on it. So I think he's just gonna come in and speak to probably leadership, development, things to grow your business. I imagine. I don't know. It was kind of like a real quick, hey, you're the first to know. We will be getting a lot more information over the course of the next few weeks and months, and we'll be sure to pass that along to you guys. Here we go. I'm gonna give you Mr. Reynolds. This is his idea. He put this together. Looks like it was very well attended. I heard great things. Aaron even picked up the tab. I heard that's going to be normal.
So, we decided to start doing just a night out, just one night. We're going to do the first Wednesdays of every month. We went to right here, South County Brewing, and again, as not a beer drinker at all, it was still pretty good. But I know David Powell was there. He just wasn't pictured. He had a really important phone call. He had to take.
I heard about that.
So, if you go to the next slide, the next one that we're going to, it's going to be November 1st, 6 to 8, right here again at South Brewing. And again, it was just fun just to kind of have the PC team there and other agents come just to hang out. So you guys are more than welcome to come, and we'd like to see you there.
Yeah, I'm really glad you're doing this because I think sometimes like productivity coaching, a lot of you guys are dual career and you're new. So you're not always wanting to put yourself out there to get to know everybody that's already been here for a while. I mean, I think it's a really good little happy hour event.
And as
Got a
a,
couple
as a
drinks.
testimonial here, Brandy picked up a great tip from Mindy.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
And
Uh-oh.
she is now the proud owner of buypadirt.com.
Which is huge, because I don't even like computers and.
So it's figured it out. So it's
Yes.
kind of like that stuff. It was just networking, having some fun, but she, you know, she learned something from other agents. you know.
Yeah, and we honestly, coming from a PC person, we really appreciate, if you're somebody that likes to help or wants to make some connections with people that can help you, you know, we really do appreciate it. It was huge as far as that's concerned.
So yeah, come out. Aaron's
Please.
paying.
Aaron's paying. Big Daddy Fat Stats.
Yeah, I think you could have heard his other knee before that, right?
Something, man.
So, all right, we have our potluck, annual potluck coming up, here on Friday, November 10th, a couple weeks. We're gonna be doing our punch bowl invite, so please, when you see the punch bowl, it is not junk. RSVP, whether you're able to come or not. It's gonna be just like previous years, only this time we get Reed back to do the turkeys. Thank God. We kept it together last year, but it was not the same, so, Reed's gonna come in with the turkey, and then we'll figure out the rest, but please sign up, say what you're bringing. RSVPs are important, so we know how many tables and chairs we're gonna need and what to expect. So we will have that out this week, sir. Yeah, so this week.
You're doing turkey? And cheesecake?
Yeah.
About cheesecake? Turkey and a cheesecake?
So I'll never forget the cheesecake story, because everyone knows about Reed's dogs for the most part. Like when we were on Zoom COVID, they would always be in the background.
The story makes me sad every time.
But he made a custom.
They bark a lot, guys.
He's known for his cheesecakes. I mean, they are gourmet. He's a former chef. And I guess one of them got out from under you and we tripped over him and.
Tripped over off.
$60 cheesecake. But they got it, right?
Yeah.
That's what they were looking for, right? Be careful with that. If you want to throw a cheesecake in this year, I don't think anyone.
You just never know.
All right, we're doing another apparel KW swag stuff. If you guys want to add this to your fall collection, scan this and you guys can, if he provide you shirts, you can look up and see what shirts he'll do the embroidery, or I don't know. That's Lori. You might be able to bring some stuff to him as well, but you have to travel out there. So if you want some KW stuff, the deadline is November 3rd to do so. And KW. Family reunion, we're gonna keep talking about this, but it's in Vegas this year. You see the dates, I guess it's the leap year, 29th, but 25th to 29th. We have a good group going already. I think we probably have close to a dozen or 15. It'd be awesome to beat New Orleans number, which was like 35, I think. Do you remember that? Probably not. I don't remember. What's that? That's where you're going to New Orleans?
Yeah.
You want to go to Vegas?
No.
So yeah, good groups going to Vegas. If you're interested, I believe they still have an early bird special, which is the next slide, $7.99. You can, then they have room blocks. If you go and register, the rooms are at Mandalay Bay. And I think it's like half the price typically is. It's $250 a room. I know flights are starting to go up, so that's the only downfall. So family reunion. Reed, you want to talk on the REAC events real quick? Anyone you want to push?
No special events to a push. Actually, there is CE, on the 24th and 25th. The one for the code of ethics is important. And so if that you can sign up for that, it's great. It'll be held at the REAC office, as is the one on the 24th. The 26th is interesting because we are now having Spanish speaking agreements of sale. It's important that someone does actually show that, because there are certain words, am I correct, that cannot really stay the same as is meant on the agreement of sale. So basically, this event is being steered to those who are Spanish speaking. So if at all possible, feel free. I think it's free, guys, so sign up for that. We have the designer bingo coming up the 29th.
Expect to see most of the guys there.
Yeah, really. Last year they actually raised like $10,000. I think like $7,000 for this. And it all goes to our foundation, which aids in the homelessness. There's a YPN power panel on the 2nd. There are 4 panelists plus, I think, Nathan is the actual moderator. Okay. November 9th is a fun event, and it's the last fun event of the year. And it's thankful for our members. It's being held over at a Windridge from, I think it's 5 to 7, 5 to.
Yeah, I don't have the time up there. But like a happy hour event.
I'm happy that it's all winding down.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. Okay, and this is what he was, Reed was talking about, for Spanish speaking agents. This is going over the agreement of sale, breaking that down. 9 to 12 on October 26th. As I mentioned earlier, Bold is in Harrisburg, starts today for first step. If you're interested in signing up for Free Bold, starts on the 25th. And then holiday party, we're talk about this. We're getting more events going. We're getting some ideas going. But mark your calendars, Friday, December 8th, Yorktown Hotel. If you guys want to stay, get a room, but it is available to us. There is a room block, which the code is down there at the bottom.
I want to comment on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, so I'm throwing a pregame party at my house downtown Georgia before the party. So I'm gonna put like an invite on the KW group, but essentially it's just like anyone's invited.
Ooh,
So it's gonna be like an hour.
well, you're paying?
Hour.
Yeah, are you providing anything?
Yes, I have.
We're gonna have like well liquor or
Cocktails.
like top shelf.
Cocktails.
Top shelf.
I'm gonna have a bartender.
Are you gonna have a bartender?
Yeah, man.
Oh shit, he's gonna bring a bartender and sets. I mean, cocktails are good.
Yeah.
And then in-house title, we have Hometown Real Estate Settlements. If you weren't able to make it last week, Amanda's right over there. So she has the office upstairs. We've been getting more and more agents using them. I'm hearing nothing but great things with the way that they do all the processing, and then they're getting paid pretty quickly too. So that's always a.
Same day.
All right, Mr. Harkins is up.
Literally hours.
Yeah.
Yes, you do. It's all good.
I'm gonna try to tie it into
That's
what
limiting
Colin's gonna
belief.
talk about a little bit, just as far as like the approach to maybe potentially buy a investment property, short-term rental, some things that people like kind of may have not thought about. But let's dive into the pain first, right? Rates, like they're kind of at these all-time highs. One of the big things that I think you're gonna see start to majorly curb inflation that no one's really talked about is student loans. For basically since COVID kicked off, student loans were not required to be repaid. I mean, they just kept extending. Then there was a lot of dialogue about forgiveness. So like basically like every client we pretty much talked to, like they weren't paying their student loans. Even if they could afford it, they weren't paying it. They started talking about forgiveness. People were just like kind of parking that money, saving it, spending it, doing whatever they wanted to do with it. Now that you're required to pay, I think you're gonna see things shift because you got high rates, which commodities are already costing more money. Like, I don't know if you've been to the grocery store lately, like it's pretty dramatic. Price wise, I think we're like over $1,000 to feed a family of 5 at this point, like a month. It's pretty nuts. But I think like that because like that's the second largest debt that American basically holds. So I think over the course of the next year, you'll see inflation start to curb. These numbers start to kind of come down to more modest levels in hopes that interest rates will, return to more modest levels. It'll help curb consumer spending. Many people, like, they just weren't paying. Like, I can't tell you how many people we had that were just like, we're gonna see if we qualify for forgiveness. They're talking about forgiving, we're just not gonna pay. So they do have a thing where you can put it back in forbearance, but that only extends for 12 months. So this is all kind of coming full circle now. I mean, we've been out of COVID for so long, but it's kind of weird to think that that's still kind of something that's kind of coming from that, that's triggered from that. So let's dive into, how do you finance an investment property, right? How do you go about it? What are some ways you can do it? And I'm just purely going to talk about like the residential, like through a guy like me. I mean, you can finance these things commercially. I know there's some folks here that have had experience financing them commercially. I know Nicole has. I'm trying to think who else has done commercial financing in here. Raise your hand if you have, because, be the beacon of help for people. But generally speaking, you go and buy an investment property, you're looking at, with us, minimum 15% down, okay? That money, it can come from a variety of places: cash on hand, checking, savings money, money off of a home equity loan, home equity line of credit if you have the funds now. Cannot be a gift, but here's something about gifting. If you are talking about doing it and maybe buying it, with mom and dad or something like that, you put them on the loan, it's now not a gift. They're part of the transaction, right? Or if you have 60-day window, put it in an account. After 60 days, it's considered seasoned. You know what I mean? They're not looking back on that money. It's seasoned and it's in there at that point. They do limit you to 2% solar help on them. I will tell you the terms at 15% down are pretty rough. Like, to get optimal terms, I would tell you put like closer to 25% down. When I bought the one that I bought, I bankrolled the loan. I think we did 10% down on it because I bought it as a second home. You can buy them as a second home. The downside to buying them as a second home is they don't allow you to count the rental income to help with qualifying. Okay. So like, that's where you literally could stand and just afford to buy we'll call it quote unquote vacation home on your own. With buying it as a second home, you don't have that bump in rental income to be able to use it. If maybe you need rental income to qualify, right? What they'll typically do is they'll take fair market value on leases as dictated by the appraiser. So the appraiser will go out when they're doing an appraisal. They'll assess fair market value on leases. Usually with those leases, they're looking at things that are already in place. So something that was in place a year, 2 years, 3 years ago, and they'll take them, they'll look at 4 or 5 leases and they'll say, all right, the number is probably in here. Okay. So I think like the one thing I see happen a lot with investment property purchases is people will be like, I could rent this for $2,000 today. And it's like, yes, you can. But what was it rented for 2 years ago? What was it rented for 18 months ago? What is it rented for without doing maintenance and upkeep to it? And you need to run your numbers kind of accordingly to that, because we, the lender, what we're going to do when we go to make that loan is we're going to take that rental income, and let's say it's $2,000. They're only going to give us 75% of it to help with qualify. So for us, a $2,000 fair market rental income is $1,500. Okay, $1,000, $750, so on and so forth. So you need to be able to kind of support the mortgage a little bit on your own, even as an investment property, but it's a lot easier to qualify for these than people think. A lot of people will just use their cash on hand, like I said. The other thing, like, because we're all in real estate, selling real estate, doing real estate all day, I wouldn't be afraid to partner with somebody with something like this. Like, if you're good at selling the idea, right, and are interested in doing like a vacation home or short-term rental, sell the idea to a friend that's capitalized, that's looking to like monetize this. You have the experience to know what's a good buy, what's not a good buy. Make them a 50% partner. Draw up an operating agreement that spells out all the pretenses. There's several real estate attorneys who have probably done these before. Cullen may even be able to point you in the direction on somebody that like has done that. But that's how a lot of the guys that like do this at a like very high level, like they'll put operating agreements together and they'll buy them with partners and they'll leverage the partner for capital. And then once they understand the systems that they'll preach, they'll just kind of work it that way. Trying to think about what else. Funding the down payment's usually the biggest thing. I mean, I think some other things to consider is obviously like where a lot of the reno costs are gonna come from if you buy something that's a little rough, but. The no gift thing, I don't think it's a showstopper if you have time. I mean, you can, you know, you have family that wants to invest in something with you, get it in the bank. It's easy to kind of work around that. We do that all the time with buyers who are trying to buy investment properties and they're like getting it from their grandmother, uncle, cousin. Like, I think people are like, oh, I can't get a gift. It's like, yep, 60 days, good to go. So any questions about the financing? There are some alternative loan types that we don't do a ton of. But they are part of the market. Bank statement loans where we'll literally, if you don't qualify off a tax return, self-employed, they'll look at 12 months bank statements to assess whether you can support the mortgage. Another common product is what they call DSCR loan, where they purely look at rent ratio. They don't look at your qualifying income. It's a little tougher to qualify for that right now just because rates are higher. And those products, like let's say a conventional investment property rates hovering, I don't know, we'll call it like 8-9%. Depending upon credit and all that stuff, you may creep closer to that 10 number just because it's a product that is what we call a non-qualified mortgage product. It's not supported. It's not backed by Fannie Mae. It's not backed by Freddie Mac. So those products, you know, they're sold in hedge funds, Wall Street. Like we had Goldman Sachs was like a big buyer of these kinds of mortgages. They would come in, buy these loans, but like with that, they want a higher rate of return. At that point, like a lot of people will turn to hard money and stuff just because you're getting close to those double-digit numbers. So, but if you have questions about it, pull me to the side. You can email me, set up a time to talk to me. I know a lot about it, you know, and I can kind of. Sometimes I don't even realize how much useless knowledge I have on this to like get you from point A to point Z. So if you have something you're thinking, all right.
Thanks, Andrew.
Yep.
Rates are getting up there. It's getting a little scary. All right, man of the hour, Mr. Colin Tate.
Thank you, Ryan. And I gotta say, I'm extremely grateful to be invited back. Greg and Ryan reminded me this morning that it's been a year. It feels like a couple of months. So thank you so much for inviting me back again. My name is Colin Tate. I am known as the host coach because what I do is help Keller Williams agents and their clients achieve financial freedom through short-term rental investing.
We'll take you through the tutorial. Just go over to. Oh my gosh.
Reprogram the whole system.
No one said you were a technology guy. Oh. So just, I'm gonna sit there and let's hit that. That seems to be the safest route.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about a big model. Gary Williams likes to talk about models. So this is a big model for short-term rental success. Often we're talking about wealth building. We don't think about why. Wealth for the purpose of wealth doesn't do us a lot of good. If we're on a desert island with a couple $1 million in a briefcase, that doesn't do us any good. I like to talk about financial freedom because short-term rental investing is what brought me financial freedom. I've been a startup SEO, a startup CEO, and a startup guy, entrepreneur my whole life. And I worked really hard in each one of those ventures. And while making good money, I don't know that I had financial freedom. I was always thinking about the business, you know, on the treadmill, thinking about the business, at breakfast, thinking about the business, at lunch, worrying about getting back to the office, thinking about the business. And it wasn't until I got into short-term rentals and Airbnb that I really started to feel financial freedom. And so that's, to me, how we acquire assets to pay for our lifestyle. Again. All right. So I became fascinated with real estate sort of in my high school years. I had a couple of friends that had properties, their parents had properties. One was a beach house, one was a house at a river that they paid like $40,000. And that always stuck with me. You know, where's a deal like that for our generation? Are we ever going to see that kind of opportunity again? And that stuck with me my entire career until I was about 38 and got involved with short-term rentals. And it dawned on me like a light bulb. This is it. This is the deal for our generation. This is something that we can get involved with pretty easily and has really big upside that we'll look back in 10 years and be like, that was the thing. So we're going to talk today about, is it too late? Is it too early? Where are we in that? So I was intrigued, tech entrepreneur, I actually have about 3,000 posting reviews now, and I like to say that I'm a short-term rental advisor for KW agencies who want to get started with short-term rental investing and help their clients acquire vacation property rental homes as well. Because think about that. If you help every client that you have, if you had a model to show them how they could pay for that investment property and pay for itself, and most likely also pay for the mortgage of their primary home, why wouldn't they? And so that's a great thing that you can go back to clients with. And once they've done that, are they going to want to buy a second investment property? Are they going to want to maybe update their primary residence? So as an agent, you can look at this information as something that you can use for your own wealth building, but also use as a wealth building resource for your clients, past and future. All right, a little overview of what we'll talk about today. The opportunity. The opportunity we're here to discuss is the short-term rental market. I'll say Airbnb a lot, but it is really the short-term rental market, which is kind of an outshoot of the whole sharing economy. Airbnb is now bigger as a market capitalization than the 3 largest hotel chains combined. Well, why do we care about that? Well, good for them, because we can participate in that. Airbnb's last quarterly revenue was $6 billion. But that comes from, they collect 15% fee from the host, the investor like yourself, which means hosts generated over $40 billion. That's a lot. So COVID changed this business significantly. The business was good. I was in the business from 2018. What has changed with COVID is that people's travel, leisure travel has changed. People are a little less inclined to get on a cruise ship or fly somewhere. People have also changed how they travel for work and how they, if working from home, what home means to them. Home doesn't have to be my home, their home, right? I get this call, this message through my runners all the time. How's your Wi-Fi? We have to take Zoom calls. People are realizing that they can work from home in someone else's home. And so that has been a big change as well. So I just closed and just launched my 10th property beginning of this month, and that's why I have my portfolio. But when I got to the point, my second vacation rental property was throwing off enough cash that was really paying my core fixed costs. So that's when I started to realize that this was enough cash flow compared to, say, long-term rentals where maybe the cash flow is $200-300 a month. I was cash flowing $4,000 a month per property. And that was really quickly able to at least free me from my fixed costs, and then a couple more to really free me from, the discretionary costs of life as well. So you can get there pretty quickly. The point of that slide. All right, so when I got started, I felt like I maybe got lucky. I bought this cabin in Shenandoah Valley, and I didn't rent it, and I started renting it. I put it on Airbnb, and all of a sudden it started to do really well. And I wondered if it was just luck. But a number of friends came to me, asked, seems like you're doing well, and we were able to repeat our processes over a couple of different markets. And that's when I realized, there's an opportunity here, not just for me as one person that got lucky in a market, but to show other people how to do this. So within a couple of hour drive of any major metropolitan area, or York, for example, I'll show you in a moment some opportunities near home here, are these locations where people want to go to get away from home. And that is replicable across the United States, Chicago, LA, wherever it may be. People have this, and again, particularly post-COVID, this let's get out of our own 4 walls and go somewhere and spend some time. So when I counsel you today on where you might want to consider short-term investment opportunity, I'm not going to say, let's go to a list. Let's go look at a list of markets that have the best returns or the biggest, viewed as the best markets. I'm going to task you to think, where would you like to go for a 3-day weekend? Where's a place you're passionate about? Maybe it's mountain biking, maybe it's skiing, maybe it's hiking, maybe it's canoeing or kayaking. So think in your mind, where would you like to go for a 3-day weekend? Where's a place you've been that you really enjoyed and you wouldn't mind going back, right? You want to be passionate about this. You want to find a place that you wouldn't mind spending some time in, Because that's gonna come through in your commitment to the property, your commitment to talking about it with friends, your commitment to, just promoting it. We get asked all the time, every day, every single day, multiple times per day, what's your favorite restaurants? Where do you go? What's your favorite? Not here's your list of hikes, what's your favorite, right? So think about a place that you might enjoy spending some time. You might enjoy spending some time with your family. Because again, this is about financial freedom, not just. So AirDNA is the tool that we've always used to evaluate a specific market. And I'll tell you in a second exactly everything it tells you about that market. AirDNA has always or historically been a paid subscription per market. So in my market, I pay like $29 a month to get data about my market. They've changed that very recently, like the last 30 to 60 days. So this is a little printout, screenshot from your general area, York being right here. And there's a little bit of a busy slide, but focus your attention on everything that's in dark blue. Everything that is in dark blue on that has a score on AirDNA of 80 or above out of a 100-point scale. All those are great markets. So it's given us this overview. Like I looked at this, and right above us here is this little place called Columbia. I don't know anything about Columbia, but we can talk about the stats.
Like Columbia, Lancaster?
I guess just north of here.
It's just like
No,
trail.
no.
East.
East of
East.
Columbia.
Right back.
Oh. Good to say Columbia.
Looks like it's on the river, so just sort of
Yeah.
north and then
Yeah.
east. I don't know anything about that market. I wouldn't have known anything about that market, but all of these dark blue segments, and you can kind of squint and see, they're all 80, a lot of 90s, 91s, 100s. And what does that mean? Let's dive into that. So that 100 score is based, if you look under it, 4 or 5 other factors: investability, rental demand, rental growth, seasonality, and regulation. So investability is kind of one of my favorite scores. That's looking at the price per square foot to acquire the property as it compares to the average daily rate. So in this market, there's not a ton of properties in this market, 35 or so. But their average daily rate is $300 per night, $315 per night, with occupancy at 67%. We'll talk a little bit later about how we're going to use the things we learned today to do much better than the average occupancy. But as you're looking at evaluating properties, AirDNA average daily rate is pretty solid. We're starting to build out, a P&L or pencil out the numbers. So all of this information at this point now is free on AirDNA. This used to be behind a paywall for years, up until, I don't know, a month or two ago. So investability is the score of what it costs to acquire square foot versus what is the expected average daily rate. And then there's other factors here like regulation. It's another quick one to point out. If we see a very low regulation score, New York City, right? San Francisco, just to give you the extreme. So when evaluating a short-term rental investment, we do want to look at any county regulations, and then we also want to look at any HOA type regulations. So it can be, Andrew is here, he was here, right? He can speak to some of like the local regulations you run into that haven't been deal killers, but just been a little bit of a headache.
Make it hard to make money?
Make it
Or
harder.
are they just like there's extra checks and balances?
So any quick questions on that, like so far? So this AirDNA resource is now free.
So just to be clear, for regulation, you want to see a high score there, not a low score.
Correct. So it's how good is it from a regulatory? And there's other, factors there like revenue growth. I don't really think about revenue growth or rental demand as much. Seasonality can be an issue. We do like to look at markets that have year round.
Regarding markets, like I've heard like local municipalities like changing the law, like people basically canceling short-term rentals in their market spaces. Have you seen that?
Gettysburg, right? In Gettysburg in that.
They got to me.
Yeah.
Gettysburg's not a market I play in, so I don't.
I heard that.
You also heard that. That
So
did change.
I tend to invest in markets personally that are these getaway type markets that have historically been getaway markets.
Yeah.
So those are already established. There's maybe a permitting process. I pay an occupancy tax both to the state of Virginia and to my county of Page. Some counties don't. I'd rather pay a tax and know that that county council is already thinking about this as an income base, as a tax base, than to, have some arbitrary regulation happen.
Mhm.
It's pretty infrequent that something doesn't get grandfathered,
Yeah.
right? New York City is kind of an obvious exception to that. Another reason why I do stay out of major urban areas. But I remember working with somebody from last year who had a little place in New York, in downtown, I can't remember the person's name, but it was a downtown area, right? Not a major city, but not a getaway type area, but she did well, and York is, a cool town that a lot of people are coming. And it was just out of Charlottesville, same kind of thing. So this is how you can start to look at a market that you might think, let's say there's, something up in the Poconos or somewhere over, that you've been, some little lake. This is how you can dive in and see this kind of data free. If you're not quite ready, this is a slide I did for North Carolina's group of rural community colleges. This is a fun slide that shows some things that you can do to get involved in the short-term rental market that don't necessarily involve buying a single family home. So at the right-hand side of this path is, a cabin, but there's other opportunities. There's rental arbitrage, which means renting, leasing something and releasing it, obviously with the approval of the owner. You may have your own short or long-term rentals, right? There may be people in this room that have investment properties or long-term rentals that you can consider changing the use case. There's also fun things like tiny houses on wheels. They can be acquired for $40,000, $50,000. I have clients that have land. Some of the most successful, interesting Airbnb are things like yurts, teepees. Right? You would be surprised how much a little teepee with a little TLC and a little deck, and a little fire pit, and maybe a grill on the corner of a farm can do. So there's a lot of great opportunities like that. There's also Airbnb experiences, which are kind of crazy. It's like, a beer tour of downtown York. I lived in Athens, Greece for a year, 2-3 years ago. And the most successful Airbnb experience there was a walking tour of the graffiti of Athens, right? It could be just that niche. And this thing did really well. This guy did really well with it. So if you're thinking about getting involved with this and don't necessarily have the capital or just want to get your toe wet, these are a couple other ways to get involved. And then as Andrew said, the other great way is if you've got time and energy, but don't have the capital, there's people in this room that have the capital, might be interested in this kind of opportunity, don't have the time and energy. All right, creating your initial listing. So we start with find your where, find a place that you're passionate about, that you'd be interested in spending some time in. The second main pillar that we talk about is make it pop. So this is finding a unique property, starting with finding a unique property, decorating it, kind of getting out the clutter. Decluttering is the first thing to do. The properties that I buy, I'm repurposing. I'm tending to buy a cabin that's been, say, like a family cabin for generations or has been used in that use case of a family getaway. But now we're repurposing that into a different type of asset class, which is a full-time cash producing short-term rental. So some of that means getting out. Last place we spent more time getting stuff out of it than putting stuff in it. So we got everything out and then redecorated. We like to say rustic on the outside, create grill on the inside. So that's kind of these macro, micro amenities. I like to buy things with a view. We like to do good decor. I don't have to tell you guys, professional photos matter. And they matter even more in a short-term rental. You guys invest in professional photography for your listings to get people to come see the listing. In the short-term rental, those photos are everything that they see before they make that purchase decision. Now, it might be $1,000 purchase decision instead of $250,000 purchase decision, but the photos matter all that much more. And psychologically, they matter a lot because as you're scrolling through listings, who's been on a platform like Airbnb or VRBO and something, right? So you're served 18 listings per page. A lot of the photos are dim and dismal and dark. And when you have professional HDR photography, it's going to pop. Whether they book it or not, they're going to click on it. And that also helps you. So investing $300 in professional HDR photography is an absolute must. The last part of making it pop is what we call the Ritz-Carlton experience. You as a host, you're already in the hospitality business. It's real estate agents. You know how to deal with people, make people happy, but that's a big part of it because a lot of hosts don't really look at it from a very professional perspective. A lot of hosts come from the perspective, this is my house. I'm doing you a favor of sharing my house with you. You know, tell me about you. Let me tell you about my house rules. So taking your experience in hospitality as real estate agents and applying it to this market is going to put you head and shoulders above sort of that average Airbnb short-term rental host. So this is an example of one of my properties. I just think it really illustrates the Make It Pop. You know, obviously it's a unique property that photographs very well. You can kind of see the shine and sheen of the HDR. You can kind of get a feel for, you know, the decor. We like to keep it uncluttered, but inviting. You know, people want to spend time in a place that isn't like their house. You know, they're trying to get away from it. We just wrote a blog post about this like 2 days ago. One thing that you can do for free is just get stuff out. So clean, crisp, inviting, you know, with some bold colors we're using there with the blue sofas. So there's just some ideas from the design. So that's our example of making it pop and stand out. The third main pillar, and this is maybe one of the most important things that you can take away from this, that again, 90% of hosts don't understand. Sometimes you'll be on forums and people will say, Airbnb doesn't care about you. Airbnb does not care about you. Just like Google doesn't care about where you show, you know, for real estate agents in New York. There's an algorithm behind the company that's driving where your listing is going to be shown. So in my market, there's like 350 properties in the market. Airbnb doesn't show those randomly. It has to decide in what order do I put these properties. The average Airbnb guest looks at 3 or 4 properties before making the decision. They show 18 listings per page. And think about Google. When was the last time you went past page 1 on Google to look for something? So how do we, knowing that, how do we then make sure that we're at the top of that? And that's understanding the algorithm. Airbnb cares about 2 things. The algorithm cares about 2 things. One, the guest experience. So that means back to hospitality, 5-star reviews, doing good by our clients, giving them great recommendations, which we can all automate. The other side is revenue. Airbnb only gets paid. You can put a listing on Airbnb 100% for free. They do all this marketing for you. They do all this collections for you and guest management for you. But they only get paid when somebody books the place. They get paid 3% from the guest, 12% from the host. So in what order are they going to show listings?
Highest price.
Highest price, part of it,
Most least.
most least, right?
Yes.
So, you know, if you're priced very high and it doesn't book, then you're gonna fall down. If it's priced high but good at market and closes, you know, has a good closing ratio, that's gonna keep you on the first page. Now, there's a lot of factors here, but really understanding how you're priced in your market and your amenities, what you're offering, that mix is what's going to put you at the top. Towards the end of the presentation, I'll show you how we monitor that and optimize for it. But that is a key takeaway. You may have friends, you may have heard, and you may have read articles. I used to be on Airbnb. It used to do well, but now it's dead. I haven't had a booking in X months. The precursor to bookings is ranked placement, where you're showing the algorithm. See, a lot of people don't think about Airbnb being like this, right? They're not thinking, where do I place in the search engine? Do they? Have you ever heard anybody else say that? But it's the key. Where are you placing the Airbnb search algorithm and how you meet the market, right? So put it back in real estate terms, you know, how you're meeting the market. That house may have sold for $300,000 last year. Your neighbor's house may have sold for $300,000 last year, but today's market's not the same. And if you just always price that house at $300,000 in that neighborhood, you're not going to sell the same number of houses this year as you did last year. And conversely, we can also show you how that price can go back up. Does that make sense? Right, so it's understanding where the market is and where you're showing in the Airbnb search placement and monitoring that to be successful. And most hosts don't look at it from that perspective, don't even consider that perspective. They just say, I used to make money, now I don't. The first question is, well, how are you placing? So one of the biggest tools that we have in occupancy and controlling your occupancy, one is our policies, right? One is, are we guest friendly in terms of our policy? do we have a moderate, refund policy as opposed to a strict refund policy? Am I allowing for instant booking, which means somebody can book without having to send me a bunch of messages? They can book it like a hotel. Okay. Beyond the procedures or the policies like that is your pricing. And this is where, again, 95% of hosts go wrong. Your average host sets up a listing, they do maybe some market research and they think $250 a night is what my place should sell. And that does two things. It generally underprices their weekends and overprices their weekdays. The solution to this is a third-party dynamic pricing software. I use one called PriceLabs. This is a very inexpensive tool. They're like $19 a month. What this does is you put in that base price of say $200 a night, and it is connected to Airbnb and knows precisely how many people are searching for that given stay window, weekend or next weekday, and then turns up or down your price to adjust to that demand, to find that market demand. I'll give you an example. So this is one of my properties. This is a slide from October of 2021. What's interesting about this is look at the difference between the red arrow and the green arrow. It's almost a threefold difference. When I started using PriceLabs, I think my average nightly price was like $250 a night for my very first property. Started using PriceLabs, and all of a sudden those weekends went from $250 a night to sometimes $300, $400, $500 a night. I never would have had the guts, the gumption to go out and ask that nightly rate. But being data driven, knowing that there's 500 times more searches going on in that weekend than it was the weekend before, your price gets turned up and maximizes the potential, but it also then has the opportunity to turn prices down a little bit on the weekdays to meet the market, to stay full. And that is our goal, is I run the whole portfolio at like 95% occupancy. So we have that slide on. Yeah.
Does PriceLabs link to automatically to Airbnb, or do you have to pull that data?
Nope. So it's a third party,
Okay,
and they have an API, which is basically a direct computer connection
okay, that's nice.
to share certain data
Yeah.
from Airbnb about your market, about even like the neighborhood and competitive set within your market, how many people are searching for next weekend versus, and what the market occupancy is like, how that compares to last year, and then automates turning up or down those prices and feeds them back into your listing for you on your behalf.
Nice. Thank you.
And so I mentioned before on that AirDNA slide that it may say, you may be looking at a market, say it's 60% occupancy. Well, that, in that average daily rate, I could do well. Following these recommendations, you can and will be at 80, 95% occupancy. Think about it. You can take any property to 0% occupancy, or you can take any property to 100% occupancy. And the lever is what? Price. Take a house and make it $10 a night, it's gonna be full. $1 million a night, it's gonna be empty. Our goal with using software like PriceLabs is to find that maximum revenue. Right? We may have to go down to $125 a night in the middle of the winter to keep it full, but that feeds back into the algorithm. The algorithm cares about, as you were saying, occupancy, about getting it rented, keeping it full. So that you are now shown higher. So now you get those $300 a night. Right? That the person that was just $300 a night and not getting the weekday bookings, you're going to get shown 10 times more often, and you're going to get those high weekend bookings. Does that make sense? So yeah, this is a screenshot from my cell phone from a presentation I did a couple of weeks ago. We run, across 10 properties at 95% occupancy, but I also work for that, right? I work to make sure that I'm meeting the market every day. That $600 a night cabin might only be $160 next Tuesday night, but I'm keeping it full. I'm making the $160 a night, right? Two nights of $300, that pays my utilities. I'm keeping my housekeeper employed and busy and favorable towards me. So you may have to squint. How can you guys see that at all? I put this slide in recently. It's sort of a whole P&L. And you can kind of see So I didn't bring any books. I thought I had a carton. Last time I was here about a case of books. I'll hand out business cards at the end. This is like page 43 in the book that shows how you would figure, whole P and L, your average daily rate, your occupancy. What I'll call your attention to is how big of a difference occupancy and a small optimized rate makes. So on this left column, we got $190 a night at 87% occupancy. Bringing this to all of your fixed costs and variable costs. So that's a net income of $2,500, pretty good on $5,000 income. Slightly better occupancy, slightly better rate, that same net number nearly doubles. So that's the power of occupancy. And that's what most hosts miss. And when sometimes people will ask me, have we missed a window for short-term rentals or Airbnb? Because everybody's doing it, or heard people are getting out of it. People are getting out of it because they don't understand the algorithm, they don't understand occupancy. 90 to 95% of hosts, you can actually sort this in Priceline and see who's using dynamic pricing. 90 to 95% of hosts are not using dynamic pricing. And so this is our secret weapon. Until the market has found some sort of equilibrium where everybody has become of that professional level that they're using a tool like this. This is how airlines price, right? And this is how big hotel chains price. So this is your secret weapon for understanding the algorithm, understanding occupancy, and understanding pricing that allows this still to be kind of a secret matching type of opportunity, an opportunity for our generation. Yes, sir.
First question, so you're looking at what, in order to turn any kind of a profit, you're estimating an 80% occupancy, am I correct?
So at 87% occupancy on this average daily rate of $189 a night, we're talking about not just turning a profit, we're turning a net margin of
1.36%?
51.
Okay, I see it now.
So yeah, it's a little.
It's like glasses.
Right, so, that's taking $5,000 worth of gross and turning it into $2,500 for the net. There's, again, the opportunity for our generation, right? I had long-term rental property, I had a commercial building, I had condos. Never do you see returns like that. And across our portfolio, we dropped about 50-55% to the bottom line. Yes.
But expenses are what, 2,360 with your net
2,390.
income?
So we got a gross of 4914, expenses of 2390, with a net income of 2500, at a margin of 51.
Okay. I see it, got
So the next question often becomes, how much time is this going to take? Right? I'm busy, I'm selling real estate, do I have time to start a whole other business? There's another software solution to this to automate our operations, and it's an automated messaging software. So most of what you would do is talk to guests, answer their questions, approve their reservations, reminders. We use a software called Hospitable, and this automates 95% of all of our guest communications. If someone books a place, they get an automatic message saying, thank you for booking. And here's our list of recommendations for things to do along the way, to things to do there, restaurants, hikes, all that FAQ kind of stuff. I like to call it our concierge message. If, what would you tell a friend coming to stay in York, places not to miss and things to eat, right? Think about anytime you book any type of vacation, what's the first thing that you do after you got your flights and your hotel rooms? What am I going to do there? And so this is telling a friend everything to do, all your favorite recommendations in York. So that's that first step towards a 5-star review. We get it all the time. Thank you so much. This is a lot of information. You've really taken this off my plate, planning this vacation, planning this getaway. This is amazing. And you have yet to lift a finger individually, right? On a transactional basis. The next message that we send out is sent out 5 days, or that this sends out, that Hospitable sends out 5 days before the reservation. Says, here's everything here's the address, here's door codes, here's Wi-Fi codes, anything you need to know specifically about the house. The next morning after they're checked in, another message automatically goes out that says, how's everything going? Just checking in, is there anything we can be doing for you? This is heading off any unspoken problems. And then once they leave, a message goes out that says, please write us a review. Once they've written a review, 24 hours later, the system automates a review to them. So the only time we get involved in any of that message stream is when someone has a very specific question. How far is your property from my grandma's house? You know, what is the size of your crock pot? You know, when was the last time a hot tub was used? So just those one-off questions are the only questions that and that's how some people say, should I have a property manager? We manage 10 properties, very, very part-time. My wife, up until a year ago, really wasn't involved in the management of properties. She was involved in the decoration before, she had a different business, but we do it together now. And we spend very little time messaging guests. And so it's a smaller time commitment than you might think. There's some opportunities here for team building. You know, you do need a small team. You absolutely need a great housekeeper. Right? Not only to clean the house and make it, you know, perfect and beautiful between guests, but also to be your eyes and ears on what the guests good, did they treat the place well? And, you know, we're out of supplies, or there's a loose doorknob, or, you know, any type of maintenance. One of the neat things about an Airbnb property is we make it perfect every 2.5 days. So unlike a long-term rental where you're going in there every 12 months and you gotta repaint the walls and there's holes in the walls and you do this big turnover, we're making it perfect. We're forcing appreciation in that asset by polishing it and making it better between every single turn. So your housekeeper is a key person on the team. People say, how do I find housekeepers? I have a great trick for that. I print little roadside bandit signs, and you print up $30-40 as housekeeper wanted. I put one outside, you know, the road to my house, one outside the neighborhood the neighborhood that my house or property would be in, and we get a dozen calls every time. You can also use, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. What about like maintenance?
Okay, so that's the next team member, right? We need
Sorry.
some sort of
So
handyman.
intrigued.
Do I have, maybe I
So
don't
many
even have that
questions.
one. Yeah, I don't have it called out specifically. A handyman. So
Yeah.
who's going to go tighten up that door? Who's gonna go screw down that loose deck board, right?
Mhm.
So handyman are also pretty easy to find. Often housekeepers will either be married to one,
True.
right? Or know one. I operate kind of in small towns where there's not like a Lowe's or Home Depot, like a little hometown style Ace hardware store. There's usually a board there.
Okay. I always
I
get hung up
also-
on that. Like,
with that-
I always get hung up on that when I think about doing this. I'm like, how would I find help if I looked 2 hours, 3 hours away? We couldn't get there right away.
You know, if you get to that
And
point,
quality help, somebody you trust to be the eyes of your property.
and you know what, it's kind of like housekeepers. If I get that dozen calls, I'll interview a dozen of them. Maybe I start with phone interviews, and sometimes it's, well, I clean these commercial properties, and my wife and I clean on the weekends. I make it real clear that we're gonna be turning over 12 times a month.
Mhm. Okay.
And that could be a Tuesday, that could be a Wednesday, that could be, you know, and so is that a fit? And then usually interview 3 or 4 of them, and there's usually a favorite or 2, and then we keep them all on a list as backups. Same thing with handyman. You know, you may have to kiss a couple frogs,
Mhm.
but usually they're easier to find than housekeepers.
Okay.
And housekeepers usually, you know, are a good lead into finding a handy person. You know, and then from there, you're gonna build out the vendor team. You know, you need to call a plumber from time to time. You need to call maybe an electrician. You know, that's easy enough to do through Google. But we just keep sheets of all that, and we, you know, we keep a list and we keep track of it. And then the final part of this operations is monitoring your reviews. Okay? Review your reviews. I don't know, as agents, if you go back and read your reviews, but maybe there's more like personality issues. But in a short-term rental, people are gonna tell you, you know, it was a little dated compared to the pictures, or, you know, it was hard to climb these stairs. I'm just kind of making up examples. If you look over those reviews and use them as an opportunity for improvement, your guests will tell you, you know, every 2.5 days, what can be made better about the property. And sometimes you ignore one, but if you hear something a couple times, then you know, okay, you know what, it really is time to replace that couch. Question? All right, so we've been through the first 3 pillars here: finding your where, make the listing pop, pricing for occupancy, and the last is what we call optimize for rank, and this is kind of a new slide here. So I talked about knowing where you are in that rank placement. Well, how would you figure that out? You can kind of Google search it, but Airbnb cookies your browser, so if you've been to a listing once, it's gonna kind of skewer the results. So there's a software called Rank. It's also very inexpensive subscription service, like in that range of 30, I pay 65 for mine, but I track like 50 to 5 odd properties. I think up to me is like $30 a month. And it gives you for each of your next available openings, so November 6 to 8, November 15, November 22 to 23, each of your available next openings. And for a guest count of 2, this kind of goes down. For all guest counts, it shows you where precisely you're showing in the Airbnb search algorithm for that property. So if you look at like that last one, December 4th through 6th, I'm on, the 20th position when I want to be in the 18th position. So I can use that to adjust price slightly and bump myself up. This is how I know that I'm staying in the top ranking positions. It also keeps track of it over time. And this is actually one of my listings that had somehow during the month of July fallen down into this kind of danger zone, silent killers, into like a 50, 60th position. And probably bookings were starting to slow. But I before bookings started to slow, I saw this fall in rank position. And this is where we lose a lot of Airbnb hosts, is all of a sudden one day, they got relegated into a 50th position, have no idea, but bookings fall off. But I was forewarned of this and made 2 small adjustments to drop my base price from $265 to $255 a night. And you can kind of see the dramatic effect that has to bring the property back up in the top 20 position. So the moral of the story here is the insight that I'm trying to share with you about occupancy, automating pricing, understanding the algorithm, using a couple of really easy to use, user-friendly, inexpensive tools will give you an immense edge over other people on the platform. Meaning that Airbnb is not dead, it is a thriving opportunity for those people who are ready to be professional, who are ready to apply a little, hospitality, a little professionalism, small investment in technology. I mean, literally, we're talking about $60 type of investment in technology on a monthly basis to generate $6,000 to $8,000 net on a property and $4,000 gross. So this is my favorite Gary Williams quote: "Anybody can do it, not everyone will you." So I will open the floor to questions. Should have a slide here. This is how you can contact me. My email's there. The QR code goes to my dot that has all of our resources. I didn't bring business cards. I thought I had. I'm sorry, I didn't bring books. I thought I had a box in my basement. I didn't. I will make this offer. I've got business cards. Anybody wants to come give me a card. And if you have specific questions about your market and want to do a consultation, give me your card. I'll reach out and we can schedule. Thank you.
Do you have any concern about regulations getting out of hand? Like you see it already, like New York, for example, like you can't do everything in New York. Do you see regulations over time getting more advanced to start making some of these getaway areas, as you called it, over regulated to the point where it kind of phases that market out?
I don't have any reason to believe any getaway markets or any majority or any significant portion of a getaway market is going to get regulated. It's more likely to be taxed than permitted.
Okay.
So permitting is more of an issue where permitting is starting to come in more and more, but permitting is pretty straightforward. It's like an inspector comes in, you gotta hang up a sign and, maybe fix a loose board or something. And then is come to hand, send us your, monthly vouchers. I will tell you, so in my market where I pay a state and a county tax, Airbnb collects and remits that tax for me. I fill out a little form that just says what that amount should have been. And that's the extent of my regulation. So I think permitting is more of a trend than regulating out And in non-major urban markets like Paris, San Francisco, I think those are outliers. And I don't really recommend, investing in that dense urban environment. I think you're facing, so York, what might happen in York? They might pass a permitting process. They might pass a permitting process that maybe is restricting, 1 per 1,000, or in Wilmington, North Carolina, they did this thing where it was like, it couldn't be more than 1 permit for like 3 houses in a row or something. But also, that's generally always grandfather too, but grandfather.
Okay.
So to kind of piggyback on that, my husband and I live in Florida a lot because that's where we would like to purchase the property, and there's so many different stipulations. Like, where's the best place to go for that, like a permitting office? I just get kind of like lost, and then I just shut down because I'm like, I don't want to buy something that's gonna be regulated out like that. So like, how do you know you're like clear to have short-term rentals? Who makes those decisions in local areas?
Generally, it comes at the county level
Okay,
or at the HOA level.
so then.
So you would call the county
Think about-
housing.
Florida has so many HOAs.
So I would start with, if you're investigating a market, let's see what the AirDNA, first of all, they're gonna give you a score that might give you a little bit of
Okay.
tip off, right?
Okay.
It says, a 20 regulation score, then there's some sort of regulation going on. I would call the county,
Okay,
and if you got a green light from the county, check with your agent about the HOA. So I have an agent that I work with in my geography, and we were looking for a property near Charlottesville in the wine country, Stanardsville area. And we kept, these beautiful properties kept popping up. And it turned out that they kept being in the same HOA, and we'd call our agent, and this one's beautiful. He's like, yeah, but it's in that same HOA. So, just like you tell your clients, like local knowledge, you should maybe be working with an agent,
I was just gonna say, is there a pool of like Airbnb savvy agents anywhere that we can
I
connect
can
with?
connect you with a group that does sort of focus.
The ones that I contacted down there were like, I don't know, we'll have to look into it.
And also get my,
Not
I
helpful.
didn't get on my
It's in Florida and
soapbox.
Everybody's a realtor.
I didn't get on my soapbox about the beach. So everything we talked about, if you wanted to go buy a beach house in Ocean City or Avalon or, wherever, all of these principles apply. And you can buy a beach house and have it pay for itself. If you want to make an investment, maximize your return on investment, the beach tends to not be the best market to do that. Why? Because beach properties have always, that rental income has always been baked into the price per square foot. It's always been assumed, even if I'm ultra wealthy and I want to go buy a house in Avalon and never rent it out to anybody, it's baked into the comparable price per square foot, $400 or $500 a square foot, that make it harder to turn. I'd rather have two $250,000 to $300,000 cabins in the Poconos
Right,
at $250 a square foot than one, $600,000 or $600 a square foot property. That's kind of the challenge with beach properties.
yeah, we weren't like necessarily looking at the beach, but
Okay.
what we run into when I was looking at in the beach areas, and the HOAs are so astronomically high, even if you were allowed to be short-term rental in there. Like, it just makes it harder to rent, I feel like,
So,
or to
that's.
make profit.
So again, back to, is it a personal preference, but I really like to have a place in, Destin, Florida,
Yeah.
that I can retire to and have, it
Off
paid
by
for.
then, yeah.
Or am I looking to deploy, I think it came up a little earlier, and I'll just hit that point again, because I missed it in the last presentation, which is in terms of your capital that you're coming up with, you do need to think about your down payment. You do need to put away some money for that making a pop apart,
Yeah.
getting out the junk, bringing in some new furniture, and some renovations. I also tell people you don't always have to do all of those renovations. You've got a list of renovations you want to do the ones that you really need to do, and then let it start cash flowing and let your customers, your guest fund that next round of renovation. We do that a lot.
I have one more question, sorry.
No, keep them
I'm
coming.
so excited you're here.
What's your name?
I'm Amy,
Hi.
Amy Rayner, hi. So my next question, I guess, would be for you, and potentially for you. Do you recommend pulling the equity out of your first one to purchase your second one, or how do you?
I kind of burr like that.
Okay,
I got started with, I bought in cash, and I tend to buy in cash because I'm just always burring that. So I bought my first one with investment line of credit that I had, paid cash, get it flowing, cash out that,
yeah,
and,
Okay.
Just kind of keep a pace, you know, and the other thing about interest rates, and I heard this, and I'm sure it'll be a broken record to you guys as a group of agents, but marry the house and date the rate.
Yeah.
I heard that, and I was like, that's so, because I say that all the time, people ask me, are you still buying? Are you buying at these, you know, it was more when prices were elevated, you know, I originally started buying in my market at like $160 a square foot. You know, went up $200 a square foot, I just bought it $250 a square foot. But how I used to answer that question was, well, I'm an investor, I'm always going to, you know, I got lucky at $100 a square foot, I got unlucky at $200 a square foot, but you know, that's gonna go up and that's gonna go down. And I think that when I heard that other expression, marry the house, you know, date the rate. And so I'm kind of married to the investment thesis. And you can also be married to the house and date the rate and refinance.
Question about the smart technology.
Yeah.
You know, there are the keypad locks that can generate a different code for each guest.
Yep.
So secure Wi-Fi that has a different password for each guest. I think there's some noise monitoring as
Yes.
well. You know, how does that get automated? I'm guessing you're probably not generating your own codes.
So you hit a number of cool technologies there. There are technologies that like just literally just plug into an outlet that monitor for things like noise, right? If you've got neighbors that you're concerned about, and it'll send you a text or an email when the noise level hits a threshold. They have things that plug in like that will tell you how many guests are in the house based on the number of Wi-Fi devices. You asked about, isn't that cool? You asked about Wi-Fi, changing Wi-Fi passwords. I don't see any need to change Wi-Fi passwords. You know, there's some things out there where they'll say like, oh, you need to provide your email address, something called Wi-Fi, for example. Each guest needs to provide their email address to log into the Wi-Fi. I think that's a little intrusive to the guest, so I just have a fixed Wi-Fi password. My last place we're on Starlink, there's nobody around us, there's not even a password on it because it's, you know, 3,000 foot of elevation, nobody's gonna, you know, be there other than the guests. But yeah, digital door codes are key. Yeah, if you want to automate those, Hospitable actually plugs in with those and communicates with them and sends that unique code in that welcome message to the guests.
Does it automatically reset those codes when the guest leaves?
Different will work in different ways. Some of them work with like last stitches of phone numbers and things like that.
Okay.
But in general, yeah, they're changing it each time
Oh, cool.
and then feeding that through to the guests. That'll be another question. Yeah. Rick.
Well, I'm just sitting back here texting some of our fraternity brothers that you're here. And there is a rumor that you have one in Turks and Caicos.
I do. That was actually our very first.
Tell us how that came into play, like
How was it
going
buying it?
essentially overseas. How did that play out? How difficult was it?
One of the easiest transactions I ever made. I actually used to say it was like, I've had more trouble buying soup before. It was in, say, 2015-ish. My wife and I traveled to Turks and Caicos. If you remember, that wasn't a great time here in the US. We had been many years prior. Long story short, we were looking to stay in a place and everything was like $800 a night. We found this resort that was like $250 a night. It turned out that it was new construction and basically was sitting. It was seller financed at 6% for 15 years. Basically, we had a local attorney, incorporated the business. The attorney handled all of the transactions, signed everything, and then it was done. You fired the attorney, and that place would be paid off 3.5 years.
And you'd buy another one there?
I wouldn't. It doesn't cash flow. It's the beach. So $80,000 a year in gross, or $100,000 in gross, it all gets sucked up. Turks and Caicos is an expensive island, utilities, management fees. You know, these building type developers, they got the numbers worked out, right? They're not in it, you know, a lot of people buy places like that just to either park money or to let something pay itself off. I would never buy a place there again from a return on investment. In fact, I would sell it if my wife wouldn't leave me. It's her happy place, but it'll be paid off in 3 years. But yeah, that's sort of my personal experience with the beach. So everything's expensive. Well, I'm gonna be around, so thank you very much for your time and attention. I will be here. I'll be hanging out. Ryan, thank you. Let's give him a round of applause.
I know you were thinking about getting me a gift, so Turks and Caicos for a week would. it would be great.
It's gonna get grandfathered out.
You know, we wanted to bring him back and he mentioned something earlier. He lived in Athens, Greece for a little bit, for a year. Did anyone pick up on that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was post-COVID, so I remember you talking about it. I thought you said 21.
It was like COVID hit halfway through.
Okay, so, and you did that mainly because this built that bridge to allow you to do that?
It did, yeah, that was really enjoying financial freedom. Our son was going into the 5th grade. And we wanted to give him an experience, you know, living in a different country. My wife and I have been married for 15 odd years, happy, healthy marriage, but like, you know. Where's the adventure after, you know, having the kid and buying the house and all that kind of stuff? And we just picked up and moved to spend the year there and manage the portfolio of 7 remote.
It's crazy. Like, so that's what this can do. If you want to do that, that's what it does. I wanted to give Liz and Andrew a time, like, do you guys want to speak on his behalf of just saying how great the experience has been so far?
I mean, I've used all the, like, a lot of the tech and it's like real, you know what I mean? Like, easy to set up, like, you know, we've done, I mean, we'll probably turn 10, 11 people a month. And like all that stuff is just automated. You know what I mean? So like really you're just fine tuning like how to get the top price, how to like bring amenities that are gonna sell you for more. Do you know what I mean? And like you learn a lot about what not to do on the first one. Do you know what I mean? Like there's definitely some things that I would say like kind of learn the hard way, just like thinking I know it all because I sit here all day dealing with everybody, you know what I mean? But like I mean it's real, you know what I mean? You're gonna make money. And like, I'm just trying to find my next one right now. It's the biggest thing I'm doing. I think Liz would probably say it probably works too.
Yeah, I got a beach rental, just because I specifically always wanted to beach rental. I knew going into it, that just like he said, the seasonality of it and it being at the beach isn't the best investment wise. But mine was more personal reason as far as the area that I wanted. But Colin's awesome, so if you're thinking about it and haven't read this book, I would absolutely recommend it. And of course, Andrew helped with me finding these things, so that was easy. But I'm happy to help anybody that would have any questions.
And I have an extra copy of Colin's book in my office.
And let me just say that I'm not here, by the way, as like somebody who's trying to sign you up for a $5,000 course. This 45-minute overview was an overview of exactly in the same format as the book. Host Coach is on Amazon. It's $15. It lays out exactly how we tackle each one of these things, like finding, you know, down to how to find housekeepers. So, you know, just the disclaimer is that I'm not here to sign anybody up for a $5,000 class. There's a $15 book that'll get you, you know, everything that you need to know. I do a little coaching when I do like a go live with people. That's, you know, inexpensive if you want me to, you know, work through the offices.
Great. All right, I know everyone's probably hungry, so let's do the giveaways quick and you can pull first. I don't want to walk around. So, hey, hold on. Hey, real quick before, you can keep that one. Before, does everyone have theirs in? Yes, no? I'm gonna go over the things, Yeti. I have John Maxwell's free ticket. I'm gonna transfer it to you. Comes with a book. 2 sheets, gift cards, 1 for the winner. $2.95, which is your transaction, $1.10, which is your.
All right, the first one is Maria.
Not here.
You're very good. You gotta be present to win. Is she in her office?
Not here.
It's not here, yeah. You want. You want $2.95, $1.10, Yeti, John Maxwell ticket for the January 25th event. Or Sheets gift card, $50.
Definitely the Sheets gift card. John Maxwell.
That was the hot item. You might be able to sell this ticket for more.
Brandy.
Do you want me to go through the other stuff?
I don't know, whatever you were saying.
But you get to pick one of them. So Yeti.
Yeah, what he said, $2.95, whatever that
Okay,
is.
thanks.
Seth.
I'm sorry. The one time.
Yeah.
Monthly fee.
Sheets and monthly and Yeti as well.
Kristen. Ziegler. Oh.
Finally.
Thank you. How do you?
I get to pick.
Actually, a bed and breakfast.
There's a Starbucks gift card in this, I forgot the name.
Read.
Yeah, may I please have the sheets? Thank you.
Read one more.
Last one.
Amy.
Yeah.
Side by side.
All right, guys, thank you so much for coming out. Public's gonna be around here. So, the pizza in the back, November 15th. See you.
Yeah, we need to hold each other accountable. I gotta go first.
Yeah.
Because I'll find out on